Next on Unsolved Mysteries. A Marine in Guantanamo Bay is brutally hazed. Later, one of his tormentors is murdered. This is the untold true story behind the movie A Few Good Men. The search for Yeti. Several well-known explorers say the mysterious half-man, half-ape has been sighted in the Himalayas. There's even physical evidence, part of a hand. A terrorist hired as an armed guard takes his co-workers hostage and drives away with $7 million in cash. And a chilling update. When a viewer tunes into Unsolved Mysteries, he discovers his former tenant is wanted for murder. Our viewers have helped solve hundreds of cases just like these, and perhaps you can help too. I'm Dennis Farina, and this is Unsolved Mysteries. Audiences all over the world lined up to see Tom Cruise and Jack Nicholson in the hit movie A Few Good Men. But few were aware that it was based on a real story, one that may have led to the murder of a courageous Marine. David Cox joined the Marine Corps straight out of high school. Being one of the proud and the few was all that he ever wanted. David was stationed at the U.S. Naval Base in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. One day, while on duty, David became aware of a problem. Another platoon member, PFC William Alvarado, had written to his senator complaining about Marine misconduct.
We didn't actually decide to have a code red for Alvarado on our own. Our platoon commander had given us an implied order that if we were good Marines, something should happen. Saturday night, we went into Alvarado's room.
What the hell's going on here?
We blindfolded him and gagged him and then dragged him off of his bed. Dave started shaving his head, and within 5 minutes, he had stopped struggling.
He's not breathing. Get the gas.
David Cox convinced his platoon to stop the hazing.
Oh, she's back up, stop it.
So we removed the gag, and he still didn't come around. He was still unconscious. So at that point, we started to panic.
Everybody else, get to your room.
Alvarado was rushed to the hospital. He recovered, but his 10 attackers were brought up on charges, including David Cox.
Relax, Cox.
Sir, yes, sir.
Don McCary was appointed to defend David.
They're gonna charge you with attempted murder. They got a confession from you, and they got a pretty beat-up Marine. Doesn't look too good.
Sir, I was just following orders, sir.
I told David that this was a defense, obedience to orders, that had not been successful at Nuremberg, had not been successful with Lieutenant Calley at My Lai, and plus we had a colonel denying he ever gave an order.
David claimed the code red started with implied orders from his superior officers.
You want to risk 20 years in the brig?
So we had the additional burden of now saying he was following an implied order. And it was a very difficult case to win, and I told David that. He decided he wanted to fight it because he believed in his heart that he didn't do anything wrong.
At his trial, David was convicted of simple assault. He was sentenced to time already served in the brig. He then completed his duty and received an honorable discharge. Then he returned to civilian life in his hometown near Boston. Years later, A Few Good Men was released. David felt that the filmmakers had stolen his story.
The most realistic points in the movie. Other than that, there was
David's reaction was that he was stunned.
I mean, for one,
It was this movie company that was making millions of money off of his story. And if it weren't for him, the story never would have existed in the first place.
David and some of the other Marines involved in the Code Red sued the movie production company. While they waited for a ruling, David spoke out about his case on radio talk shows.
Today,
David was living with his girlfriend, Elaine. He was hoping his temporary job with UPS would become permanent.
Dave was very enthusiastic about getting on board with them. I think it was something where he felt that he could have a full-time, steady occupation.
The night before he was supposed to get the good news, his back was giving him trouble, and he spent the night on the couch.
I hope UPS calls. Have a good day.
Elaine left at about 8:30 a.m. and then called home at about noon.
Love ya.
David didn't answer, but there was a message for him on the machine.
Hi, message for David Cox. This is Jim at UPS. Got some good news for you. Give me a call. Thank you.
So I was really excited. I was like, oh, cool, Dave's going to get this job and he's going to be so excited. And then I called back again at 1 o'clock to check the messages, and that message was still there, and the UPS guy had called again, too.
David?
At 5:30 p.m., Elaine returned home.
David?
When I came into the house that night after work, I realized right away that the doors to all the rooms were open, and our rabbit, who we usually just kept in the kitchen, was like hopping all over the place.
Hi, David. It's Jim again at UPS. Please give me a call. Thank you.
David's truck was still in the driveway with the keys in the ignition. His uncashed paycheck was on the dashboard, and his 9mm gun was in the glove box. But David was gone.
I immediately had a feeling of dread because I know David well enough. David would not just disappear. And right from the start, I was very concerned.
As the days went on and there was no news from him, I mean, we checked his bank account, and there was no activity on his bank account. You start to believe that, maybe something did happen, but why?
The answer came with the spring thaw. The body of David Cox was discovered on the banks of a river in Medfield, Massachusetts, about 5 miles from his apartment.
He was shot, according to the ME, 4 times, once at the base of the rear of the neck and 3 times in the left side torso area.
It was clear that robbery was not the motive.
The ID on this, Bobby, says that David Cox from Native
David's
Mass.
cash and his credit cards were still in his
I
wallet,
don't know if that's this individual.
and police rule out a random
What we'll do is
attack.
we'll have photocom, we'll take, secure the area, and we'll take some pictures.
Investigators are convinced David left home with someone that he knew.
It's our belief that he got in the car willingly, that he knew who was coming to pick him up, and that he went to this area and walked into the woods with this person. I think that if it was somebody that was just holding a gun in him or something like that, that they would do it within the first 30 or 40 yards into the woods. David was found almost 3/4 to a mile walk into the woods.
I don't know why David was killed. I personally believe it had something to do with the military. He was taken out of his house without signs of struggle. He was wearing his Marine Corps jacket, which he never wore. He was found between 2 hunting ranges where gunshots would not be unusual, and he was murdered execution style.
Now, there is a movie opening tonight called A Few Good Men.
After the release of A Few Good Men, David was quite vocal about his story and the U.S. activities in Cuba. David's family believes he may have talked too much.
The colonel had implied to us to discipline a certain Marine.
After I heard that interview on the radio, I spoke to him and I said, I don't like what you're doing. I think what you're doing is dangerous. And I think he felt too free to just speak his mind.
This guy there, he's a supervisor.
David's brother had a different theory, suggesting another possible scenario. He thought that perhaps the murder was connected to David's job at UPS.
Stealing. Yeah, they're stealing.
A couple of months before Dave disappeared, he had mentioned to me that he had come upon a supervisor and one of the drivers involved in some type of activity, what he believed to be was theft.
At this point, the investigation's still open. It'll remain open until we solve it. We'll follow any leads that come through vigorously and remain to do that until it is solved.
If you have any information about the murder of David Cox, please log on to our website at unsolved.com. Next, evidence that the legendary creature called Yeti really exists. The Himalayas, the site of the world's highest mountain and one of its most intriguing mysteries. For centuries, the Sherpa people, native to the Himalayas, have told frightening tales of a strange, half-man, half-ape called the Yeti.
To the Sherpas, Yeti has always been very real and very much alive. Some Western explorers agree. They have found convincing evidence that the Sherpas may be right.
Several expeditions have uncovered mystifying stories of strange human-like creatures who live in the Himalayas. In 1951, Eric Shipton, a world-famous mountaineer, came across a curious set of tracks. This was the first clear evidence that the Yeti might, in fact, be real.
The photograph of the Shipton footprint is a very big piece of evidence because it showed toes, individual toes. It showed a squat, square footprint, which a lot of the other expeditions had found, but not had good photographic equipment with them.
The footprint was 13 inches long and 8 inches wide. It didn't look like it was made by a man or an ape. In 1957, a Texas oil man named Tom Slick and explorer Peter Byrne set off for the Arun Valley in northeastern Nepal in search of Yeti.
Tom Slick's interest in the beginning was to find out if the Yeti were really there, and that's the reason he came on the first reconnaissance. I had been hearing about the Yeti for years, ever since I was a child, but I think that what eventually convinced me that they were there was meeting with the Sherpas and talking with them face to face.
Namaste. Namaste.
The Sherpas viewed the Yeti as a real living creature, not as a mythical creature. And they called him a hairy man that lived out there separate from them. On the first expeditions, we took along with us 8x10 pictures of a chimpanzee, a gorilla, a primitive man, and so on. And they used to point to the primitive man and say, "That's the Yeti." In fact, they thought we had a picture of the Yeti when they saw that.
Yeti.
The Sherpas described the Yeti to us always as being man-like in form, about 5'6", 5'7", 5'8", not very large, covered with hair, walking upright. The face was bare of hair, the palms of the hands, that sort of thing.
Slick and Byrne decided to split up to cover a wider search area. Each made his own startling discovery.
We'd started out from our camp in the early morning, and we simply chose a mountain, and I came across a line of footprints.
Baka Yeti.
You're sure?
Yeti. Baka Yeti, Mr. Peter. It's Yeti.
In Peter Byrne's photograph, the Yeti footprint is on the left. On the right is the much smaller boot print of one of the expedition members.
Stop, Tom! Stop, Tom! What is it? Yeti.
In another part of the valley, Tom Slick and his Sherpa guides discovered a similar set of tracks.
You saying these are Yeti tracks? Yes, sir.
The significance of the prints that Tom Slick found is that they were in mud, whereas snow will distort with heat and with wind and so on. Mud will not. He only saw 2 or 3 because it's very hard to track in that stuff. In fact, he was lucky to find them.
A plaster cast of the footprint was shipped to the U.S. to be analyzed. The print measured 10 inches long and 7 inches wide. It was similar to the footprint discovered by Eric Shipton 6 years earlier.
It was a short, squat, almost square type of footprint. And I sent it to the various physical anthropology experts around the country. And what they usually, the terminology that came back was unique, but we don't know what it is.
In February of 1958, Peter Byrne embarked on another expedition. On this trip, he met a Buddhist monk who had an amazing story to tell.
He liked scotch, this old man. And one evening, while we were sitting there having a drink and talking, he said, you know, that up in the temple we have a hand.
Hand? A what? Yeti hand.
And he said, would you like to see it? And I said, yes. So we went back up to the temple, and he showed me this hand. About the size of a human hand, cut off at the wrist. I considered it very significant, and I took some pictures of it immediately, some flash pictures. I asked the Lama, of course, could I have it? And he said no. He said it must never leave the temple here. If it leaves the temple, various calamities will befall the temple and the community and so on.
The photographs of the Yeti hand were unlike anything scientists had seen before. Was it human, or was it ape, or was it an entirely new species? They needed the actual hand, or at least a piece of it, to find out. The next year, Peter Byrne returned to the monastery with another bottle of scotch for the monk and an outrageous plan.
I cut the finger off and I replaced it with the human finger. It took quite a long time to wire the whole thing together, put it back in the box, and nobody ever knew anything about it. And everybody actually was perfectly happy. They still had their hand, it still had its fingers.
The finger was brought back to London to be examined.
It was sent to me, and I sent it to some of the 20 experts which I thought should look at the hand, and they were about equally divided whether it was human or whether it was some type of primate, known or unknown.
Dr. Agagino put a tissue sample from the bone fragment in an envelope in his desk. It remained there for more than 30 years. When we learned of the bone fragment in Dr. Agagino's desk drawer, we asked the University of California to analyze it. The results were inconclusive, but seemed to indicate that the tissue probably came from a human hand.
The problem with something as vague as the Yeti is that almost any result you have can be fitted into the theory. So I'm sure that most believers will say, well, this is great. This proves that the Yeti is some sort of subhuman species.
I think that's what we've always thought, that it wasn't an animal, that it wasn't an upright walking ape, because apes don't walk upright anyway, that it was a hominid, a human form of some kind.
Meanwhile, the sightings of Yeti continued.
I had made camp at 16,500 feet when out of the darkness a very loud, piercing call began that sounded like nothing I'd ever heard before. It moved around, it circled our campsite, it would get closer, it would get farther away, it would call intermittently, and the call was always very loud and very piercing and very frightening.
I was on a distance of 10 meters, so it was my impression it's bigger than me. It was quite hairy and strong, with short legs. The body was quite dark. Dark brown, black hairs, long hairs. And he has quite a lot of hairs on the head.
I have to leave it open that I do not know what the abominable snowman is, but I feel there is a very good chance, probably 50-50, that something resembling the thing they're looking for does exist.
Perhaps these mountains are home to an elusive half-human species. Or perhaps Yeti is just a myth after all. Either way, we must remember that a new species is discovered almost every year. You never know. Yeti may still surprise us. Coming up, when her home is invaded by intruders, a young girl is stricken by amnesia. 14-year-old Sarah Powell was home from school with the flu. When she woke up, she had absolutely no idea where she was or why she was there. She didn't even remember her name.
I remember this little dog was licking my face, and that's what woke me up. I tried to move, and I realized that I was tied up. I had no recollection of who I was or why I was tied up. I tried to remember things, but as soon as I started asking myself who I was and what I was doing there, it upset me more. I grabbed the phone cord with my teeth and pulled it off the bed, and that knocked the phone off the hook. And then I thought, who am I gonna call? I don't know anybody. I don't even know where I'm at. And then I looked down and I saw that there's a redial button.
Hello? I need some help.
The girl reached the local post office. One of the employees was a woman named Deborah Powell.
They had a child on the phone. The child said that everything in the room was pink and there were teddy bears everywhere. And I knew at that point that there was no doubt in my mind it was Sarah.
Sarah was Deborah's 14-year-old daughter. She had stayed home sick from school that day.
What's going on? Is she all right?
We don't know. We haven't gotten into the house yet.
Sarah! When we went into the house and I saw it was ransacked, I knew she was in big trouble. I was scared. I was frightened. I didn't know what I was going to find.
Ma'am.
Sarah?
Don't hurt me!
Sarah, honey, it's Mommy. What's wrong, honey? It's Mommy.
Don't hurt me!
I didn't know what to think, what to do. The more I tried to go toward her and help her, she began to panic.
It's all right, Sarah. I'm a policeman. Just let me get you out of this.
My first impression was she was a teenager that was up to something and probably did not want her parents to find out what had happened that day.
The police had good reason to be suspicious. After searching the house, they found no signs of forced entry and no fingerprints or footprints.
Anything? And we later learned that nothing was taken. So these sort of things make us think that she's going to be able to tell us what went on, and she will know who it is, and we'll solve this as soon as Sarah's ready to deal with it.
Sarah, did you get yourself into some trouble here? Is that why you're afraid to say anything to me?
I can't remember anything that happened. I just know that I woke up all tied up.
I could tell that they thought I was holding something back. I was trying as hard as I could. They would show me pictures and ask me if I remembered my parents, and I couldn't remember anything.
After 2 months of trying to remember her family, and 2 months after struggling with even the most basic skills, something unpredictable happened.
Sarah, honey, what is it? Sarah? Sarah, honey, what is it?
I need some help! Somebody help!
I was scared to death. I didn't know what was happening. I thought, what in the world? This looks like a seizure.
Go get the school nurse! It's okay. I didn't let them in.
And I remember thinking, maybe this is the memory coming back, but I couldn't be sure.
I didn't let them in.
The memories had returned in a terrifying rush.
I remembered walking up the stairs when I heard a loud noise. So I started running up the stairs and I heard a second loud boom. And that's when I saw people trying to break in the window. I saw the phone sitting on my bed, so I just dove onto my bed and called my mom at work.
The front door was locked with a double deadbolt, and Sarah couldn't find her keys. Then, suddenly, everything was quiet.
I started sneaking up the stairs and stood up slowly, and I looked in my room and nobody was there.
Don't look up! I promise!
He just pushed my head down on the bed and put a pillow on my head. I believe he was trying to kill me.
That's enough. This ain't funny.
Shut up, all right?
I was at the point where I just couldn't hold my breath anymore. So I just went limp and pretended like I was either passed out or dead.
You just had to get a look, didn't you?
And that's the last thing I remembered. I remember passing out. And that's what I remembered in my first seizure. And I thought that was all at the time, but it turned out that it wasn't.
Over subsequent seizures, Sarah began to recall the rest of the story.
I remembered waking up and nobody was in the room except for the smaller guy.
Why are you doing this to me?
Look, you just gotta be quiet, okay? I'm gonna tie you up, but you'll be all right.
The bigger guy, that's when he walked in and saw us talking. The bigger guy, he had the gun.
We're such good friends now. I'm sure you're gonna love this.
He had it to my head.
Come on,
Shut up! Shut up!
Man, come on.
And you tie her up.
I know that they were downstairs ransacking the house because I could hear things fall into the floor. The smaller guy unraveled the phone cord once and plugged the phone back in and set it on the bed. I think he felt sorry for me.
Sarah was literally in a life-threatening situation, and then two things happened that probably insulted her brain. One was that she got hit in the head, and the other one was that she was suffocated. So that the combination of terror and a psychological amnesia component, and then the physical insults, I think, combined to result in this unique amnesia presentation.
Can you describe those people to me?
The police, however, remained skeptical. They even put Sarah under hypnosis to see if her story would hold up.
There's a big guy with muscles.
She told the same story that she had always told. The hypnotist told me, in his opinion, she was being truthful.
I believe that I've remembered the attack accurately. I don't think there's anything else to remember. It's always possible, but I really feel like everything is here, and I'm ready to maybe see if I can get some answers and find out why this all happened.
This is a composite of the tall male intruder as he might look without the stocking mask. He's about 5 feet 10 inches and very muscular. He has a tattoo of a cobra on his right bicep or shoulder. If you have any information, please go to our website, unsolved.com. Next, a missing biker, scattered remains, and a chilling letter confessing to murder. Is it real or a cruel hoax? Burbank, California. Tom Roche and Barbara Rondo love nothing more than to hit the road on their Harley-Davidson. After 15 years together, cycling was a passion that they shared.
We've known each other since '76, and all our extra time was spent riding. Tom's my father, lover, teacher, guide. Tom's my life.
Tom just accepted a well-paid management position with a company that plated aircraft parts. 3 days before Tom was to start his new job, he drove Barbara to work, and then they made plans to meet for lunch.
Okay, don't be late.
But Tom never showed up for lunch. And when Barbara got home, she still had not heard from him.
Tom?
She was surprised to find the front door was unlocked.
Tom?
There was no sign of Tom. Everything was in its place except for Tom.
But an ominous pattern soon emerged. The newspaper was still unopened, strange since Tom always read the sports page in the morning. A motorcycle battery that Tom had planned to install that day was still on the counter. And the answering machine was off, which meant that Tom had planned to be at home most of the day.
I didn't sleep at all that night. Just trying to figure out where Tom was and why he hadn't called to let me know where he might be.
There's a lot of different circumstances for different types of missing persons. They could take off because of family problems. They could take off because of money problems. We really don't know the reason until we get into talking with the family or friends.
You see a lot of people going in and out of that house?
Neighbors were questioned, but no one had seen Tom that morning. Police didn't know whether Tom had left on his own or if he was a victim of foul play. Barbara posted these flyers at his usual hangouts, but no one came forward with any information. Tom Roche was officially listed as a missing person. Days passed with no word, and then a letter arrived. It was addressed to the family of Tom Roche. It contained Tom's driver's license and the earring he had been wearing the day he disappeared. The letter also contained this bizarre confession. You don't know me, and hopefully never will, but I am the one who killed Tom Roche. The closing words, I'm very sorry for what I have done, and I know in time that the guilt will leave me. So will your pain. Was this chilling letter a hoax? Tom's family couldn't think of a single person who would want him harmed, and they simply could not believe that he was dead. The investigation continued. Authorities once again went back to the day he disappeared. On that day, Tom made 2 deposits at his bank at approximately 8:20 a.m. But he did not withdraw any money, indicating he had no plans to leave town. Tom was next seen by a neighbor. He was talking with an unidentified white male at about 9:30 a.m. If the letter is not a hoax, then police believe that this man may have been Tom's killer.
We contacted one witness who told us that she had seen Thomas that morning with another subject standing by a pickup truck looking into the bed of the pickup truck. She said that they were not arguing. It looked like they were just carrying on a normal conversation, and there was nothing suspicious about that. And I believe that was the last time Thomas was seen.
Okay, started for sports.
However, a statement from one eyewitness suggested the letter might be a hoax.
$159.95.
An employee at a motorcycle parts store was convinced Tom came in one day after his family received the letter saying that Tom was killed.
He acted a little strange in the sense that he didn't joke around with me. We would always joke around about what kind of motorcycle he rode and about it, or leaking oil and stuff, you know. So, I mean, I knew Tom well enough to know Saturday that it was Tom that came in.
Authorities believe Andy Marcella did see Tom Roche, but suspect that he is mistaken about the date. With no new leads, the case became inactive. Placer County, 500 miles north of Burbank. Authorities were called to investigate weathered bone fragments and personal effects that were found on a remote hillside. Motorcycle emblems on the clothing link the items to Tom Roche. A duffel bag, flashlight, hunting knife, 2 pairs of prescription eyeglasses, an empty prescription medicine bottle, and several shirts. Tom seemed to have been packed and ready for the road. Barbara Randall recognized all the shirts and a pair of eyeglasses as Tom's.
I do feel that what they found is Tom, but there's that hope that he is still out there somewhere, and that in fact I will find him.
Update. DNA tests have confirmed that the remains found in Placer County are those of Tom Roche, and that he died of a gunshot wound. The exact circumstances of his death, as well as the identity of the letter writer, are still a mystery. Burbank police cannot reveal additional details. However, they continue to work on this case. If you have any information regarding the death of Tom Roche, please log on to our website at unsolved.com. Next, a man wanted for murdering his girlfriend is captured, thanks to you. We recently told you the story of 22-year-old Paula Pasiak and her boyfriend, Jerry Gervasoni. They were traveling to Kissimmee, Florida, to visit Paula's mother.
Paula was as happy as a lark. The two of them were. I mean, they were very together. They were just happy-go-lucky.
Paula and Jerry arrived on a Wednesday, and then on Sunday night, they said their goodbyes. They told Barbara they would be leaving early the next day.
Oh, we're getting tired.
I got up the next morning, and I thought I heard them up. I didn't know whether they were or not, so I didn't bother to say goodbye. Maybe if I had, things would have been different.
Days later, Barbara noticed an odd odor in the house. She checked her bedroom. Hidden under the bed, wrapped in a bamboo curtain, was her daughter's body. Paula Pasiak had been strangled to death and left under the bed for nearly a week. The prime suspect was Jerry Gervasoni, but by then he disappeared. Gervasoni avoided being captured for more than 7 years. Update. British Columbia, Canada. When our program aired in Canada, Jerry Gervasoni's former landlord recognized him and called authorities. He was living under the assumed name Gordon McIntyre. Several days later, Gervasoni was arrested in the small community of Salt Springs Island.
I come home and sit down to dinner about 9:30, quarter to 10, and flip on the TV, and there was this black and white photo of Gordon McIntyre.
Once in custody, the suspect still insisted that he was Gordon McIntyre, but fingerprints soon confirmed that he was, in fact, Jerry Gervasoni. At the local airport, Gervasoni tried to avoid photographers as he was hustled on to a waiting plane. He was returned to the United States and convicted of second-degree murder. He served 6 years of a 17-year sentence. It was one of the most daring heists in U.S. history. One man single-handedly loaded $7 million into a getaway car and vanished. And he's still on the run. The robber was a 25-year-old armored car guard named Victor Manuel Harena.
What's up, Vic?
A trusted employee at the West Hartford, Connecticut office of the Wells Fargo Express Company. Harena arrived at work that day, as usual, but with a special request.
Is there any way I can park my car over here at Bay 5? I would really appreciate it.
What's wrong with your car?
It's not mine, it's a friend of mine's. I hate to see something happen to it.
The vehicle that Victor was driving that day was a 1973 Buick LeSabre, which was a full-size, big car capable of carrying a large load, whatever that may be.
That day, Harena and his partner made all their scheduled rounds, collecting more than $3 million from local banks and businesses. The Wells Fargo vaults already held more than $4 million.
Tim, I'm gonna check in the guns.
Okay, take mine.
By 9 p.m., Harena, his partner, and the supervisor were alone in the armored car terminal with more than $7 million in cash.
Listen, I'll kill you. I swear to God, I'll kill you. What are you doing? Shut up! Stand up! Come on! You, lay down! Lay down! No, lay down! Move it! Put your hands behind your back!
He handcuffed his supervisor's arms behind his back and also taped up their mouths and used duct tape to tape their feet and bind them so they couldn't move. And he put jackets over both their heads so they would not be able to see what was going on.
Harena began to move the $7 million, bag by bag. It took the better part of an hour and a half to load his car with roughly a half a ton of cash.
After the car was loaded, we believe that he sent a signal to someone on the outside that was helping him. He honked the horn and opened the bay door to the terminal. It's believed that at that point, someone else came into the terminal and drove his car out of the terminal with the money inside the car.
Gerena left the building without harming the guards. They soon worked themselves free, and they called the police. The next day, Gerena's car was found a short distance from the Wells Fargo terminal. Victor Gerena vanished, along with the $7 million. Investigators soon learned that Victor Gerena was a member of a Puerto Rican terrorist group called Los Macheteros. They were fighting for the independence of Puerto Rico from the United States. This is an underground video created by Los Macheteros. Flush with millions from the robbery, the terror group purchased a surface-to-air missile. It was launched at the FBI headquarters in San Juan, Puerto Rico. Little damage was done, and some of Gerena's co-conspirators were quickly arrested. Victor Gerena escaped again. He is now on the FBI's 10 most wanted list. The reward for his capture is $1 million. Victor Manuel Gerena has brown hair, striking green eyes, and when last seen, weighed about 165 pounds. He stands 5 feet 6 inches tall. Recent leads put Gerena in Cuba, but investigators believe he could now be back in the United States. Victor Gerena should be considered armed and very dangerous. If you have any information about Victor Gerena or any of the other cases profiled tonight, log on to our website at unsolved.com.